I'm Edwin Gao. The big stories tonight. The health department now wants a retesting of all incoming passengers in the country 5 days after their arrival. This comes after the co-passengers of one of the country's first cases of the British variant tested positive for COVID-19 after initially testing negative. In a private meeting Wednesday night, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez assures a number of senators that there will be zero corruption in vaccine deals. Senate President Tito Sotto confirms the indicative pricing for Sinovac vaccine is within 600 pesos. Senator Coco Pimentel is now off the hook. The Justice Department has junked the complaint that Senator Pimentel had breached COVID quarantine protocols. Newly inaugurated U.S. President Joe Biden gets to work right away. He signs 15 sweeping orders, scrapping policies put in place by his predecessor, Donald Trump. And do not be confused, but viewers are about to see some Kapamilya shows on the Kapatid Network. Asap Natin To and FPJ The King will now be simulcast on TV5. We begin tonight with more news of concern about COVID-19. At least 14 airline passengers have already tested positive for COVID-19 after being in close contact with a Filipino with a British variant of the virus. What is more alarming is that they now test positive after or even though they initially tested negative upon their arrival. Is there a need for repeat testing? Greg Gregorio with the big story.
Another close contact of the country's first case of the British variant tested positive for COVID-19. This despite initially testing negative upon arrival from Dubai on January 7. The co-passenger is now the 14th person to get infected. What worries authorities is that 4 of them initially tested negative, including the index case's girlfriend. That's why the health department now wants all inbound travelers to undergo a second swab test 5 days after arrival.
So, sa ganitong paraan, maaari po nating makita and appropriate po yung timing ng testing and we can be more certain kung talagang negatibo o positibo itong pasyente na ating itinest.
The DOH says they have to finish a full 14-day quarantine even after testing negative for the second time. Of the 14 specimens from the close contacts, 6 have been sent to the Philippine Genome Center. This will determine if they also have the more infectious variant. The 8 others underwent another swab test. Their cycle threshold value had initially surpassed 30, meaning viral load is low and cannot undergo gene sequencing. The DOH considers the possibility that a low viral load may also mean less chances of carrying the British variant.
Characteristic of this UK variant is a very low city value. So, una, the fact na mabataas yung kanilang city value already begs yung question na, ay, UK variant pa ba talaga to?
The Octa research team, for its part, thinks there are undetected British variant cases in the country. It cites 21 travelers from the UK last October to January, all of whom tested positive, as well as taga-Gayanon who became positive for the British variant upon arrival in Hong Kong.
We made the calculation, and the probability that at least one of them has the new variant is 99.96%.
But the DOH maintains there is still no local transmission of the British variant.
At kung nandito umiikot na yung UK variant, we should be seeing some surges from the municipality where she's coming from.
Octa research also predicts that Metro Manila cases may balloon to as high as 540,000 by the end of January if the present R0 value of 1.09 won't decrease. But according to the DOH, cases in the National Capital Region plateaued to around 5,000. For now, the DOH says it's closely monitoring an uptick of cases in provinces after the holidays. Moderate risk areas include CAR, Regions 1, 2, 3, 7, 10, and 11. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The country's participation in the COVAX facility has been officially confirmed. The health department says this would now allow the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines within the first quarter of this year. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez says the Philippines could get 30 to 40 million free shots through the facility. No specifics though on what brand, although Galvez did say in the past that Pfizer-BioNTech's jabs will be delivered via the COVAX facility.
Meron tayong backup plan. Actually, sa po natin sa 148 na ating vaccine na darating po na sa aming bilateral procurement, hindi po namin sinama ang COVAX kasi ang po natin nakikita po natin na hindi po natin control yung management po ng COVAX. So yun po ang anticipate po namin, nagkaroon po kami ng contingency na just in case ma-delay. Meron naman po tayo na yung regular procurement po natin sa vaccine.
And here are other developments on the vaccine front. A test shows that Pfizer's jabs may be effective against the more infectious British variant of COVID-19. This is based on the pharmaceutical's latest lab test on a synthetic virus with mutations similar to the B117 variant. Over in the Philippines, India's Covaxin files for an emergency use approval in the Philippines. Bharat Biotech's vaccine only requires standard cold chain temperatures of 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. As for AstraZeneca's EUA, the FDA Director General Eric Domingo says the British-Swedish drug maker is expected to respond to their queries within the week. Domingo also says the evaluation for Russia's Sputnik is ongoing, while China's Sinovac has submitted reports on its phase 3 trials.
Yung AstraZeneca, may mga tanong pa yung experts natin and they promised to reply by this week, by Friday. So ibig sabihin, matutuloy ngayon yung kanyang evaluation kapag nag-submit na sila ng kasagutan sa mga queries natin. Si Sinovac, kanina nag-submit na rin siya ng mga reports ng kanyang phase 3 trials. So mag-uumpisa na rin ang evaluation nun.
Some senators are confident that any attempt at overpricing vaccines will not be successful under Secretary Galvez's watch. What exactly do senators know about the pricing schemes for the vaccines? We find out in this report by Mian Los Baños.
Senators who met privately with vaccine czar Carlito Galvez on Wednesday night are satisfied with his answers regarding the country's vaccination program. One of the attendees, Senate President Tito Sotto, says Galvez presented documents showing the country's deals with pharmaceutical firms. Sotto says it made clear that there are indeed non-disclosure agreements or NDAs. Senator Panfilo Lacson was also present. He says they were able to hash out issues and concerns raised by lawmakers. Lacson says he accepted Galvez's apology after he was supposedly accused by the vaccine czar of demonizing some pharmaceutical companies.
Ako po ay nagpapasalamat po kay Senator Lacson dahil kasi ako meron din akong pagkukulang at yung aking akusasyon na ginagamit yung politika ng Senado, yung hearing, ako po yung kamali and I want to make an apology on that.
In today's Laging Handa briefing, Galvez explains that the contents of the agreements cannot be divulged to the public.
Hindi pa tapos yung supply agreement dahil kasi magkakaroon po tayo ng tinatawag na breach of contract at yun po ay pangit po sa imahe ng ating gobyerno. At the same time, magkakaroon po tayo ng liability.
Galvez also clarified that he did not disclose to the senators the exact prices of the shots. He, however, provided them with the indicative prices.
Na-explain ko naman po yung talagang proseso ng mga negosasyon sa vaccine, kung paano namin ginagawa ang tinatawag natin na mga tawaran. Yung potential gains natin ay umabot pa ng more or less $1 billion. Talagang nakita nila yung talagang yung ginagawa po natin ay talagang merong due diligence and very prudent.
When asked whether Sinovac shots is at around 600 pesos as bared by presidential spokesman Harry Roque, Sotto says the indicative pricing is indeed within that vicinity. Lacson noted in a statement that he has no doubt about Galvez's integrity and sincerity to accomplish his task, but he advised the cabinet member to mind the people around him. Lacson explained that Galvez may have the best intentions, but there might be people who would take advantage of his credibility while pursuing their own interests. Senate President Sotto meanwhile said that Secretary Galvez was able to assure them that there will be no room for overpricing by any person or group. This as all payments will go directly to pharmaceutical companies from the lending institutions that will also set in place proper safeguards. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
With vaccines expected to arrive within a month, Secretary Galvez also says that deals with cold storage facilities are already being ironed out. So far, the government is eyeing 2 additional facilities for vaccine storage, that of Unilab in Binyan, Laguna, and Zuwelig Pharma Corporation in Parañaque. The Research Institute for Tropical Medicine's cold storage facility in Muntinlupa will also be tapped. Galvez says the IATF Technical Working Group is conducting a time and motion study in time for the arrival of the shots. This includes its delivery from the airport to the cold storage warehouses. Galvez says the vaccines will first be deployed in high-risk areas in the country.
Ang preparation po natin ay unang-una yung iba madedeploy muna dito sa Metro Manila at yung mga karatig na mga regions to include Cebu, Davao at saka yung mga tinatawag natin na mga dating na apektado ng COVID-19, yung matataas ang mga kaso.
We will go for a quick break, but when the big story returns, after the Defense Department terminates its accord with the University of the Philippines, senators now want to amend the UP Charter. And the Justice Department clears Senator Coco Pimentel of the quarantine violation complaint lodged against him. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. More agreements with the University of the Philippines are coming to light after the Defense Department abrogated its agreement with the state university. Senators now want to amend the university's charter to provide better guidance on the military's operations within its campuses, and Camille Samonte has the details.
Should the University of the Philippines and the Defense Department seek to iron things out over the abrogation of the 1989 Accord, Palace spokesman Harry Roque is more than willing to offer his good office. Roque says Secretary Delfin Lorenzana is open for dialogue but is not keen on walking back on his decision.
I continue to await word from President Danilo Concepcion. It's just an opportunity to sit down.
Talking to 1PH sa Totoo Lang, Senator Kiko Pangilinan says the Senate urges the DND and UP to enter a dialogue.
Para malaman ano ang maaring gawin para mas mapabuti at mapalakas itong accord na ito, and of course, all in the context of the rule of law, diba? And respect for academic freedom.
Pangilinan is one of 11 senators who filed a bill seeking to amend the UP Charter. It includes guidelines on military and police operations inside the university. Roque, a UP alumnus and law professor before he joined public office, says the palace respects the proposal.
Sa akin po, that seems to be a reasonable proposal, but that has to be enacted po into law.
As for the Philippine National Police, Top Cop General Debold Sina says that similar to the 1989 Accord, the State University and the Interior Department have a similar agreement during the time of former Secretary Rafael Alunan. The PNP back then was not part of the 1989 Accord. Because of this, Sina says the PNP will follow any directive from Interior Secretary Eduardo Año. Sina says they already submitted their recommendations to the DILG.
Ayoko po siya pangunahan. No, of course, kung ano pong decision ni SILG ay doon po kami tutugon. At kung ano man yon, kung i-maintain or i-abrogate, ay susunod po kami sa kautusan ni SILG po.
In an interview with One News The Chiefs, NDF-LCAC spokesperson Lieutenant General Antonio Parlades says that the military expects the university to respect authority regarding the entry of state forces within its campuses.
We've been doing surveillance, monitoring inside the schools. We have all those information. But how can we proceed kung ganito katigas yung ang ating administration, for instance, ng UP?
For UP alumni and former student regent attorney Cristina Conti, the abrogation of the agreement may have a chilling effect on protest actions and demonstrations.
As long as the university is a safe space for dissent, for free and critical thinking, we need to defend these areas.
For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
The Justice Department has junked the quarantine violation complaint against Senator Coco Pimentel to the dismay of the lawyer who filed the complaint. The DOJ says Attorney Rico Quicho's complaint was dismissed due to the lack of probable cause. The DOJ argues that Quicho merely presented news reports as evidence and dismissed them as hearsay. Recall that back in March, Pimentel had gone out in public pending his test results, which eventually turned out to be positive. The DOJ says Pimentel is not a public health authority mandated to report under RA 11332. Justice Secretary Manalo Guevara said in the past that the law serves as basis to arrest those who breach quarantine protocols. Thousands have already been arrested for quarantine violations using that law. In a phone interview with One News, Quicho challenges the DOJ to apply the law to everybody else.
If you are in power, if you are privileged, then the Department of Justice would treat you with kids' gloves. And they have to ensure that a crime that has been committed should be punished. And Senator Coco Pimentel should face the music and he should pay.
Pimentel, meanwhile, believes the DOJ's decision is unassailable and correct. When asked if he will file a case against Quicho, he says secret. He also calls Quicho's complaint baseless. And these are the other big stories tonight. Makati police officers, including its police chief Colonel Harold Depositar, have been relieved from duty for the negligent handling of the Dasera case. Medical legal officer Michael Sarmiento is also among the sacked officials. He reportedly had the body of flight attendant Christine Dasera embalmed prior to autopsy procedures. PNP Chief Debol Sinas says it is now up to the NCRPO head Vicente Danao to determine when the dismissal order will take effect. Two House panels approved separate bills granting President Duterte the power to suspend SSS and PhilHealth rate hikes. This can only be done, however, in times of national emergencies like the pandemic. The twin measures were filed by House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. Velasco thanked the House Committees on Health and on Government Enterprises and Privatization for the swift approval of the bills. Marikina River's water level reached around 16.2 meters early this morning due to heavy rainfall caused by the tail end of a frontal system. The water level, though, has already declined. Marikina Mayor Marcy Chidoro says the reclamation project near the Marikina River may have contributed to the rapid rise in the water level. The Marikina LGU has coordinated with the Environment and Public Works Departments for river dredging to be conducted. And now time for the big stories in sports. A look at the game with Laura Lehman.
Thanks, Ed. Welcome back to the game. Now we'll take you to the city of brotherly love as the Philadelphia 76ers host the Boston Celtics in a highly anticipated Eastern Conference showdown. On Saturday, live on TV5. Meanwhile, the new era of Brooklyn Nets basketball is officially underway as the time has finally come for us to witness their big three play together. Thursday morning, Manila time. Be sure to catch the NBA regular season action tomorrow on NBA TV Philippines. The New York Knicks will face Steph Curry and the streaking Golden State Warriors. And at 4 p.m., catch the premiere telecast of NBA Spotlight with the Washington Wizards. And that's it for the latest in the world of sports. Catch us later at 9:30 p.m. on One News and One Sports Plus. My name is Laura Lehman, and this has been The Game.
Thank you, Laura. We will go for a quick break when the big story returns. U.S. President Joe Biden wasted no time. On his first day in office, he immediately erased policies established by his predecessor. And a major collaboration on Philippine TV is about to happen this weekend as TV5 airs 2 of ABS-CBN's programs. Find out what those are after the break. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. The inauguration of U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris had several stark differences compared to past ceremonies thanks to the pandemic. A quick look at the inauguration like no other in this compilation by Bloomberg. Let's watch this.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Let's get
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank
President.
We've learned again that democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
From the wealthy to those struggling to make it, from every human being, regardless of their choices, that this is our country in the strong name of our collective faith. Amen.
Joe Biden got to work immediately after being sworn in as the 46th President of the United States. He signed orders on immigration policies, and so how might this affect Filipinos living in America? Marilyn Enriquez tells us more.
Hours after U.S. President Joe Biden's inauguration, he immediately signed at least 15 executive orders, memorandums, and proclamations, dismantling some of the policies of his Republican predecessor, Donald Trump, including the war on immigrants.
And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did.
Biden will present his immigration bill, the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, to Congress. Experts say this could be the most significant immigration amendment since the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. The bill allows foreign nationals in the U.S. who pass criminal background check to apply for temporary legal status and a green card after 5 years. Should they meet additional requirements, they may apply for citizenship after 3 years.
That's a path to citizenship. In fact, I think narinig ko kahapon na yung mga na-process na lahat, pwede nang bigyan ng green card.
Biden also signed a memorandum reinstating the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, or DACA. This shows undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as children from deportation, which Trump tried to terminate in 2017. Biden also paused the construction of the U.S.-Mexico border and reversed the travel ban on predominantly Muslim areas. He will also implement a 100-day moratorium on deportations starting Friday. But these relaxations on immigration policies do not sit well with some Filipino Americans, especially now during pandemic.
There's a lot of people here in the United States are hurting because of this pandemic. Why don't we focus on that instead of focusing and opening? Come on in.
While Filipinos may have different opinions on Biden's policies, they hope that this will open opportunities for their relatives and families. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Other than immigration policies, Biden also undid other high-profile policies put in place by his predecessor, Donald Trump. As promised, Biden moved to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. He also took steps to end the travel ban Trump had put in place on some majority Muslim countries. Other pandemic-related actions signed by Biden include the mandatory wearing of masks and the observance of physical distancing on federal property. And the Filipino audience is about to get a new viewing experience during the weekend. This, as two shows of ABS-CBN will now air on TV5. Beginning this Sunday, viewers can catch ABS-CBN's long-standing musical variety show, Asap Natin To, on the Kapatid Network. Apart from Asap, TV5 will also simulcast FPJ's The King, which showcases Fernando Poe Jr.'s movies. According to TV5 President Robert Galang, this collaboration is only the beginning of greater cooperation among industry players and marks a new era of partnership. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News, for more in-depth analysis. Visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News. Good evening.